All right, I had a band in today and we did a tracking day. We did 4 songs in 5 hours. Keep in mind, this band dropped off the equipment that they were going to use. They used a lot of my equipment, but the equipment they were going to use, they dropped off a few days ahead of time, and I already had it set up and ready to go to where when they came in, all we had to do was some minor level adjustments, and we were ready to go. This is a hardcore punk band from the south side of Chicago. I've been friends with them for many, many years. They're good friends of mine, and we just tracked 4 songs today for a little 45 they're going to put out. And I am going to walk you through the complete tracking scenario, how I tracked a full band in my home studio. I'm going to go through what mics I use, what preamps I use, and how I monitor it, and should be interesting. So, first of all, there's 14 microphones on the drum set, so why don't we go through them first. He used my Tama Art Star 2 Hard Canadian Maple kit from the 80s. He did use his cymbals and his snare, but he took those with him because he's done, and I put mine back. So just keep that in mind that we did use his cymbals and his snare. So there's 14 microphones on this kit, and if you watch my other videos, you know that I like to do the X pattern, but with a hardcore rock band like this, I wanted to get a stereo spread more on the overheads. So we'll start with the overheads. There's 3 overheads on this kit, and it is the AKG 451Es and this U47, and they are all 3 equal distance from the snare. If you look at it, well, the right one is a lot higher than the left one. Well, that's because this one's further out that way, right? So to get your distance, you got to bring that one up, and that's completely okay. So those are the 3 overheads, all right? A stereo room mic I have right here, an R88, and that's going across the kit. This is a stereo ribbon mic. There's a ribbon coming this way and a ribbon going that way, and I have it centered on the kit, and that is my stereo room mic. Inside the kick drum, I have a Yamaha MZ204 about halfway in, facing on off axis from the beater head. So it's halfway in the kick drum, off axis. I don't know why. That's the way it sounds best to me. Outside the kick drum is a Neumann FET 47. On the snare drum, I have a Shure SM57 on the top and a Shure SM57 on the bottom. It's just standard and it sounds great. I have the toms mic'd with 421s, and I have the hi-hat and the ride mic'd with Shure SM81s. And then there's one more mic I put up, and I'm going to walk you to that now. If you go across and around and everywhere, I'm capturing the bounce off the wall inside my front vestibule. And this is just basically a spank mic, and that's the 14th microphone. This is a great mic. It is a 441 Sennheiser. So all the band were wearing headphones in here. There's my headphone amp. And they were all standing in here, and believe me, it didn't look like this. There was wires and cables all over the floor in here. But the only thing we were really focusing on was capturing the drummer. Everyone else was scratched because we knew we were going to be doing overdubs. Okay, so there's 2 guitar players in the band. I have one pan to the left and one pan to the right. The left guitar player went through this JCM 900. The right guitar player went through this PV. It's an Eddie Van Halen model, I guess. Both these heads, there's a cable going into my tracking booth going to cabinets, and those are mic'd up. So let's walk through them. And here we are. So we'll go through the left guitar player first, which we know is the JCM 900. I have an SM57 and a Royer 121 on the left guitar player. On the right guitar player, I have an SM57 and a Royer R101. All these mics are phase correct, making sure there's as minimal phase issues as possible, and that is very important. All right, now the bass player, there's 5 speakers in this cab, 4 10s on the top and a 15 on the bottom. So I have a D12E on the 15-inch speaker, and a Beyer M201 on a 10-inch speaker, and I also took a DI. So there's 3, that's a DI and 2 microphones. So you're probably wondering, oh, are you worried about the bleed? No. I got these Clarisonic panels that give me plenty of separation. And keep in mind, it was all scratch until we were done with the drums. Then I overdub each one of these guys one at a time. So I'm not worried about bleed. And plus, I like bleed. So that's not a problem for me if I have bleed. All right. So let's go through. One thing I forgot to mention is the bass player went through a DI for the initial drum tracking, and then I went through his amp for the overdubs. So now we're going to go over the preamps that I chose for this band. We'll start with the drums. The kick in is this Neve 1064, and I am using some EQ on it. The kick out is this Neve 1272. The two mics on the snare, the 57 top and bottom, the top snare mic is this Neve 1064. The bottom is this 1272. So that's the kick and snare. And then the toms, I went through 312s. The hi-hat and ride, I went through 312s. And then the mono room and that far room mic, 312. So all these are on the drums. Then the stereo overhead, the AKG 451Es, was this pair of Neve 1272s. And the R88, the stereo room mic, was this pair of Neve 1272s. So we used 8 Neves and 6 API 312s on the drums. Let's move over to the bass guitar. So when we were done with the drums, I used these two Neve 1064s for the bass mics, which is the AKG D12E on this Neve 1064 and the Beyer M201 on this Neve 1064. And then I also took a DI through this Neve 1272. Everything went straight through the burls to Pro Tools. I did not use my tape machine today or my console, and we'll go over that. But everything went straight into the burls. Besides the stereo room R88 microphone, I did use 2 distressors, not necessarily to smash, but just to compress and add more room sound because I wanted it to sound big. It's rock and roll. It's a hard rock band, and I wanted to add more room. So I put the distressors in line. So the R88 microphone in my drum room came out into a pair of Neve 1272s. The Neve 1272s went into these distressors, and the distressors went into the burls. That's the only hardware I used. The rest was just microphones and preamps. With the guitars, I did something I really like to do. So you know how there's 2 microphones on each guitar cab? They're all going through 312. So it's the SM57 and Royer 121 on the left and SM57 and Royer R101 on the right. So each guitar player had 2 mics on their cab. So these 2 microphones I have patched into my API summing mixer, coming out a mono channel into the burls. Same with the other guitar player. The SM57 and the Royer R101, I have patched into this summing mixer, coming out a mono channel going into the burls. So even though there's 4 microphones, there's only 2 tracks in Pro Tools that I commit to. And I like that. I have no problem with it. I just make sure ahead of time my gain staging is right and my phase is right. All right. So I think that's pretty much it as far as microphones and preamps and outboard I used. I did not use my console at all today or my tape machine. With this band, I just used microphones, preamps, and I monitored on my Inward Connections DMS5 master section. This is a whole console's master section. What mixer did I use? Pro Tools. All right, so this is a monitor. So this is my volume for my Genelix. I have TalkBack, headphone amp for the band, headphone level, auxiliary inputs, and a bunch of different features that I could use. And this is just great. I didn't need my console. We were just tracking into the computer through the burls, and this did the whole job for me, and it's fully Class A discreet and sounds delicious. Thanks for watching.